They were worried about cold butt. That's to bring the heated.
Oh, look at that reaction. Look at that. What do you say? What do you know? It's the full Monte Sports Show. It is Saturday, January 28th, 2023. I am your host, Monte Perez, a.k.a. The Sports Whisperer. Thank you so much for tuning in. Last week, we had people, Greg always makes me say this, from Team MBS. We had people from Canada watching, people from Mexico watching, people from France, 34 states across the country tuned in to the full Monte Sports Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. You can follow me on social media, on TikTok. One of my latest videos is now at 655,000 views. That is Monte Perez 231 on TikTok. On Facebook Reels, one of my videos is at 2 million. So follow me on Facebook Reels, Monte Perez. We have the best guests all across the country. This week is no exception. Cheers to everyone. We were going to have our good friend John Meyer on to talk Kansas City Chiefs. Something came up with his work. He's not able to attend. We always love having John Meyer on to talk Chiefs. But we're going to have Team NBS's own Jalen Willingham join us to talk about his Cincinnati Bengals. What an epic matchup this is going to be. Still unsure about Patrick Mahomes' injury. My guess is he's going to be about 75%. I don't think he'll be able to scramble. And that's not so much the downfall here. I think the downfall is him being able to extend plays. I don't think he's going to be able to extend plays. So he's going to break that down. And also, Orrie Berce from Hoop Social. If you're not following this guy on TikTok, he's going to give us that information. This guy just posts out NBA content 24/7. He is phenomenal at it, doing a tremendous job. So definitely want to follow him. Orrie Berce from Hoop Social will join us at 11:45 a.m. Eastern Time. Good morning to everyone. Yes, happy NFL Championship weekend. Okay, let's get to the good and the bad. Let's start with the good. Look, I told you guys when he was drafted that once Zion Williamson fills out his body and understands what his body can do, this guy is going to be an absolute all-star, perennial all-star stud. You know, when Charles Barkley came into the league, he was not in shape. It wasn't until Moses Malone says you're fat and you're lazy that kind of changed Charles Barkley's mentality. When Magic Johnson came into the NBA, he couldn't shoot. Zion doesn't know his body yet. He's 21 years old. And I had people all over the place telling me that this guy is going to be a bust. He's never going to stay healthy. He's fat. Well, he's having a phenomenal season. 60% shooting from the field, 36% from three, 26 points, 7 rebounds, almost 5 assists a game. So don't tell me that Zion is not worthy of being a number one draft pick. Okay? He's 21, 22 years old, and he's starting in his first All-Star game. And I will say this. I've posted a ton of videos on social media about Shai Alexander, the point guard from Oklahoma City Thunder. Shai is averaging 30 points, 6 assists, 5 rebounds, a steal and a half a game, shooting over 90% from the free throw line. Shai Alexander should be starting over Steph Curry. Steph Curry has been injured. And think about this if you're a Clipper fan. They traded numerous first-round picks to get Paul George and trade Shai Alexander. Shai Alexander is better than Paul George now. And now the Oklahoma City Thunder have a ton of draft picks. This was a horrible trade for no other reason that the Clippers haven't even sniffed the NBA Finals since they made the trade. Shea Alexander, no disrespect to Steph Curry, but there should be a rule in the NBA. If you miss more than whatever, 15 games, 10 games, same thing with Kyrie Irving. Same thing with Kevin Durant. If you get injured, you should not start the NBA All-Star game. I'm sorry. That's just the way I feel. But going back to Zion, you were all wrong. He's phenomenal. Phenomenal. Okay, let's get to the bad. So we all thought that Frank Reich was the key to Carson Wentz's success and that Frank Reich was the key to Doug Peterson's success when they won the Super Bowl. He was the team's offensive coordinator. But as you can see now, it is not Frank Reich that was the key. Frank Reich just got hired as the Carolina Panthers head coach. And I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Why does he get another shot? He basically did nothing with quarterbacks with the Indianapolis Colts. Now you could say, Monte, okay, but he didn't have good talent there. Fair enough. But I've seen the Jets win 7, 8 games with no quarterback. I've seen San Francisco get to an NFC championship with 3 or 4 different quarterbacks. So why does Frank Reich get another job right away? He was horrible in Indianapolis. The team got worse every year. And if you look at what Doug Peterson has done without Frank Reich, getting the Jacksonville Jaguars to the playoffs and almost upsetting Kansas City, they were down 27-0. Remember the week before to the Chargers, and he had enough leadership, made enough adjustments in the second half to beat the Chargers. So Frank Reich, Carolina, is anyone really excited about this hire? I wouldn't be. I wouldn't be. Now, I want to say this too. I want to say this about the NFL and what's happening this weekend. So this next weekend, they're going to have a skills competition, right? They're going to play flag football. Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, who are everywhere covering the NFL nowadays, are going to be the coaches. This is what the NFL should do. Back in the day, there was a show called Battle of the Network Stars. And what they would do is ABC, CBS, NBC. Can you imagine there was only 3 channels back then, realistically? They would have their stars, their actors compete against one another. There'd be a tug of war competition, a running competition, sprinting, rowing, all these things. The NFL is going to have a Pro Bowl weekend, and they should implement these things. They should implement competition amongst the AFC and the NFC. It would be bench pressing, okay, military press, 3-on-3 basketball, 100-yard dash, ping pong, rowing, swimming. Competition, that's what people want to see. The 100-yard dash, everyone would watch. So I like that the NFL is going away from the traditional Pro Bowl, which is so boring. But they should do kind of what the Battle of the Network Stars used to do and just have a ton of competition. Just have a ton of competition. Okay, so now let's go one more good right here. This is amazing. I grew up in New Jersey, so I knew these 2 guys. Milt Wagner, DeJuan Wagner, and DJ Wagner are the first grandfather, father, son trio to be selected to the McDonald's All-American games. All 3 of them. All 3 of them from Camden, New Jersey. Imagine, people talk about the Manning brothers. People may want to talk about Shannon Sharp and Sterling Sharp. But these guys, grandfather, father, and son, all made the McDonald's All-American team. To do that, that's pretty damn impressive. Usually you see a son fall off. Again, Michael Jordan, Milt Wagner, DeJuan Wagner were never the level of a Jordan. But it's going to be interesting to see how we say this about LeBron James's kid, the amount of pressure that they have. They're always going to be compared to their father. How would you like to be compared to Wayne Gretzky if you're a hockey player and you're his son or you're his grandson? These guys really know what's going on. These guys really know what's going on. Congrats to them. That is beyond impressive. That is beyond impressive. All right. Before we get Jalen on, I want to break down what's going to happen today with the Philadelphia Eagles tomorrow and the San Francisco 49ers. So, both of these teams have the most talent on both sides of the ball. The difference here is everyone thinks of the San Francisco 49er defense as great, and they are. But Philadelphia is number one in the NFL in sacks. Number one in the NFL in sacks. I really believe here that Brock Purdy is going to struggle. At dinner last night with my dad's friend Bruce and my parents. Bruce is a big San Francisco 49er fan, and he lived there for a while. He lived in San Francisco, so he remembers all the classic Joe Montana, Steve Young, all those guys. But the one thing that people aren't factoring in here is Brock Purdy didn't play well last week at home. At home. When he had 2 weeks to prepare for a good Dallas Cowboy team. Brock Purdy in Philadelphia? What? Are you kidding me? Against a defense that was number one in sacks. I think they had 70 sacks on the year. You don't think Jalen Hurts is going to outplay Brock Purdy? No, yes, it's a team game. Get it? 100%. It's a team game. But I've said all along, the Eagles are the best offense and defense in the NFL. I have no confidence that Brock Purdy can carry this team. And you say, Monte, he doesn't have to carry the team. He just has to be a game manager. Well, if you're down 14-0, you're going to have to carry the team. Brock Purdy's going to have to make plays because we know Jalen Hurts is going to make plays. At the start of the season, in preseason, I had the Rams and Chiefs going to the Super Bowl. About week 4, I said the Eagles are the best team in the NFL. About week 6, I said the Bengals are the best team in the NFL. Now, we're going to get Jalen on in about a minute, and we're going to talk about Patrick Mahomes and if he's healthy. But going back to the Eagles 49ers, it's going to be a very good game. I think the Eagles take an early lead, and then Kyle Shanahan has a trick play, double reverse Debo, Christian McCaffrey throwing the ball, pulls out all the stops, and they come back. But I think the Eagles take the lead in the second half after 49ers come back to make it like 14-10, and the Eagles win this one 24-16. Again, I've said all along that the Eagles are my sleeper team, so this is an emotional pick for me. But I'm going based on facts and stats. The Eagles' defense is better than the Cowboys' defense. The Eagles' quarterback is better than the Dallas quarterback. The Eagles have better wide receivers than the Cowboys do. And the Cowboys almost won that game despite Dak Prescott playing horribly and despite them being on the road. The Eagles at home are going to lay the smackdown on the 49ers, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Brock Purdy and Trey Lance in San Francisco. So that's my take. I'm 8-2 picking NFL playoff games. 8-2. The only two I lost was the Chargers, who blew a 27-0 lead to Jacksonville. And for some reason, I thought that the Minnesota Vikings would beat the Giants at home. I forgot Kirk Cousins, chokes in big games. But again, 8-2, 80%. So I'm taking the Eagles tomorrow, and let's bring them on, Team MBS. Jalen Willingham, you got to be loving life right now, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
The Bengals have won 10 in a row, right? And I'm coming a mile away with Buffalo. I've said on my show, and our good friend Brock, Greg, Brad Ward from All Eyes on Cleveland's like, you got to give the Bills some respect. I'm like, no, I don't. Shocked at how easily the Bengals went into Buffalo and dominated them.
Yeah, honestly, Monte, I mean, I was a bit shocked by that myself. I mean, it's I think it's funny that you say you don't got to give the Bills respect because if you were following my previews, I was giving them a lot of respect.
Yes, you
I think,
were.
yeah, I think I even had them winning the game too. And then when we came out with our pretty much second string offensive line and pretty much punched the defense in the mouth, we had almost 200 yards rushing.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, maybe this team is a bit better than I thought it was.
Well, Jalen, what's funny is everyone would come back to me and is like, "Oh, Buffalo's eighth in rushing, Buffalo's ninth in rushing." I'm like, "Yeah, that's because Josh Allen. It's not their running backs." And all the credit to the world to the Bengals. They have won 10 in a row. But let's be honest here. Their defense, when Buffalo needed to run the ball in the snow, the Bengals defense shut them out. How come this defense doesn't get talked about during this winning streak? Because it's pretty damn good.
Well, what people got to remember about this defense is that number one, Lou has gotten consistently better each year that he's been with the Bengals, and then number two, this defense, while it has been a top defense in NFL, we don't have a Aaron Donald, we don't have a Miles Garrett or a Minka Fitzpatrick. These are just really a lot of solid players who have bought in, who just execute every play. And
And
yeah.
one of the things that people are getting on me on social media is I don't want to see Eli Apple covering an elite wide receiver, but people tell me he's better than I think. Yeah, he's risk reward. Sometimes he gets beat. Are you an Eli Apple fan?
I wouldn't exactly say I'm a fan. I'm more, I'm more so a guy that can I just put up with him. I'll live with him. I mean, he's on my Bengals team. I mean, we've had honestly, we've had much worse players. I mean, we've had Vontez Perfect, we've had Adam Jones. I mean, so if I can go deal with them, I can for sure deal with what Eli Apple has done.
That's a great point there. Okay, I want to talk about this matchup today in particular. First of all, are you concerned that there might be some complacency here just for the mere fact that the Bengals have owned the Chiefs? Now, every game has been a field goal, but they've won the last three, and Bengals players are now calling it instead of Arrowhead Stadium, Burrowhead Stadium. Like there's some trash talking going on.
Yeah, I don't like it I don't like it not one bit. I don't like the Burrowhead. Recently the mayor of Cincinnati has come out and called it Burrowhead and put
Yeah.
it in writing. Yeah, I don't like that at all. And plus, I mean, I think that's really corny. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, it doesn't matter how good the Bengals as a team have handled the Chiefs. At the end of the day, we still got to go out and play. So yeah, I don't really like it. And given the fact that we don't have a single Super Bowl to show, I don't really like that either.
Um, will you say this? Is there any Joe Burrow's king of Cincinnati, right? Joe Cool, people love him. Is there any pressure for him? Because let's be honest, I think no matter what this guy does, if they win or lose, he's a top five quarterback. He's never panicked. No matter what happens, he could get hit 7, 8 times. He could
Mhm.
throw 3 interceptions and a half, and he's so cool. Is there pressure on him now to like, okay, everything up until this point has been gravy, but now we expect you to win?
Honestly, I don't really think there's a lot of pressure on Joe Burrow because he's still very young. I think there's been a lot of external pressure put onto Joe Burrow, if that makes sense, by just the media and just people in Cincinnati. And just honestly, Joe Burrow is for sure top five. Is he the best quarterback? No, he's not the number one quarterback. But I don't think there's a ton of pressure put on Joe Burrow just because of he's still so young in his career.
Jalen, I'm having a little problems with my visual here, so I'll just leave the camera on you and ask you the next question until I can get this situated. Break this game down for us. What is your biggest concern?
Going into the game, my biggest concern, no doubt, is just how, well, we talked about it before, is just how there's just way too much trash talk going into the game. On, I mean, there's been trash talk on both sides, but I'm more specifically focused on the Bengals. In that, I do feel that we're kind of getting a little complacent. Like we still got to go out and play. And then number two, Patrick Mahomes' injury. I feel that some people may be thinking that the game is a lock because of that, and I 100% disagree. I mean, I've look watching him in the interviews, a little watching him a little bit in practice. I mean, he looks. He's walking kind of fine to me. I mean,
But
I
again,
don't know.
my thing is okay. Here's my game plan. If I'm Cincinnati, I've dealt with torn ligaments, sore bad ankles my whole life. I'm gonna blitz him up the middle because if you blitz him up to the side, he can move up in the pocket. But when you got to go laterally as a quarterback, when you have a bad ankle, that's a big concern. My concern is not that he won't be able to scramble so much. My concern is he has such a phenomenal ability to extend plays. That's where, if he's just a pocket passer, he's great at that. But what makes him a number one, number two, number three quarterback is his ability to extend plays with his feet.
Yeah, it's definitely something to watch for sure. And then I brought up a good point about the blitzing. I do think the Bengals will dial up some good blitzes, but I don't think they're gonna blitz a ton. I still think that Lou and Arumo's gonna game plan is gonna be, just dropping a lot of players into coverage and still taking away Travis Kelsey, their number one target, and then just forcing Patrick Mahomes into situations that he's not gonna like while dealing with that sprained ankle.
Now, I believe you had this game, correct me if I'm wrong, 31-30.
Yeah,
So you are cautiously optimistic going into this game, correct?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
What do you think? Okay, so what do you think is going to be the key to the game? We know Joe Burrow is going to play well. We know Patrick Mahomes, despite being injured, is going to make plays. Is it Joe Mixon and the Bengals running game who was so effective against Buffalo? Is that the key to their victory today, tomorrow?
I think there's going to be two keys specifically. Number one, the run game. Like the run game, it has to be stable. What got them through the Bills game was the run game, and the run game is of course going to take you far in the playoffs. So that's number one. So Mixon has to be on his A game. Samaje Perine has to show up as well. And then number two, the big thing that caused the ties to turn in the Bengals' favor in the last two games was that there's always a big turnover. The
Yeah.
last week 13, they caused a fumble on Travis Kelsey in the championship game last year. They had two big interceptions. Somebody has got to step up defensively and make a big play, just like they've made all throughout this playoffs, all throughout last year's playoffs as well. That's got to be the two keys for sure.
So I had the Bengals beating the Bills, but my concern was it's going to be a rough night because their offensive line was so banged up. How do these guys, is it, I mean, it can't just be Joe Burrow because in order to have a good running game, you have to have some push from your offensive linemen. How does this team keep being effective, especially in this winning streak, running the ball when it seems like every other week you're losing an offensive lineman or they're at 70%?
Honestly, Monty, I wish I could tell you that too. I mean, it's really, just looking at it, it's just how bad do you want it? And what the guys in against the Bills game showed me is that they just wanted it more. They just wanted it more than the Bills. The Bills, they just thought
By the
they were
way, by the
gonna just
first
take
quarter,
it.
the Bills looked defeated. They were arguing with each other, panicking. You never see that with the Bengals. And my brother, who's a diehard Bengal fan like you, has been very critical of the head coach. But all of a sudden, he's starting to say, okay, he's doing the right thing.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. No doubt the Bills game last week was probably the best I've seen Zach Taylor call plays and just
Yes.
overall coach a game.
Yeah. I mean, that's a very good point. Okay. So I posted a video on social media where, and I highlighted the Jacksonville Jaguar quarterback Trevor Lawrence when they lost to Kansas City. He walks into the tunnel. Now he knows there's cameras on him, but he didn't do it public. And he's the first one in there, and he shakes everyone's hand, from the trainers to the coaches to the players. Jimmy Johnson, Hall of Fame quarterback, once said, they asked him, "Can you define leadership?" He goes, "I can't define it, but when a player has it, I know it right away." Trevor Lawrence, at 2 years in the league, is telling his players, "I love you. We're going to be back. Remember this loss," right after the loss. We've seen quarterbacks emotional, Tom Brady, Cam Newton, after a big loss. They just stick to themselves. Trevor Lawrence had the wherewithal and leadership skills to comfort those who were hurting. I look at Joe Burrow, his last year at LSU. I look at him now, and I say to myself, I don't care who it is. I don't care what sport. There's no better leader in sports right now than Joe Burrow. Am I over praising him?
No, not at all. You're 100% right. He's there's a reason why he's called Joe Cool. No matter the outcome, the result, he's always keeping a calm composure. He's always making sure that his guys are good. And what Trevor Lawrence did, I could 100% see Joe Burrow doing something like that after the AFC Championship game if they do lose. But
Right.
like it's hard for me to even imagine him. Like, it's hard for me to even imagine Joe Burrow like throwing a tablet on the sideline or like yelling at his coach. Like,
Yeah.
I just can't see it, Monte.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Even if he's frustrated, it's and again, he's been through. People don't realize this. He's been through a ton of adversity. Urban Meyer said that he wasn't even a Division I quarterback. Right? He goes to LSU the first year they struggle. The second year they are all world on offense. He goes to Cincinnati. He gets sacked, I think, 70 times in 2 years, and it's almost like he's a more skilled version of Rocky Balboa. And what I say is, you can hit him all the time, and he just keeps coming back. Remember that scene in Rocky where Apollo Creed is beating the hell out of Rocky, gets up, and he just shakes his head. That's what the Bills were doing last week. Every time Joe Burrow made a play, they're just like, how much more can we take of this guy coming back off the floor, off the canvas, and making a play?
Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering the same thing when I'm watching him. Like, man, he got up from that hit, and I remember specifically from the Bills game. One of the defenders had ran into his, I think it was like in his leg, and then he
And
just
they were
sat on
saying
the
it's like
ground.
Patrick
Yeah,
Mahomes. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and he sat on the ground for a minute, and then got back up, and then nothing. Like, there's nothing after that. I'm like, oh, okay, so like, yeah, like he's no doubt one of the toughest quarter, not one of, probably the toughest quarterback
Yeah.
in the NFL today.
And he's Rocky with his heart, but he's skilled too. Like Rocky was just all heart and brute. Joe Burrow has it all. All right. So I was gonna have John Meyer on, who I've had on the show for years covering the Chiefs. He couldn't come on, but I was gonna ask him this question. I'll ask you this question. After years of being not a great team. Yes, you had some playoffs with Andy Dalton. John Meyer and the Chiefs, as a Chief fan, they're going to 5 straight AFC championships. Jalen, what does it mean over the last 2 years to watch this team? I mean, you've had years of just slightly above average. Even with Andy Dalton, you never were confident that your team would win the Super Bowl. How does it feel going into every game? You have an 80% or higher chance of winning.
It kind of, so I'll tell this story how my dad described the Patriots growing up. So my dad, he's born and raised in Cincinnati, and he hated the Patriots now, but he said, growing up, the Patriots used to be historically bad, but then Tom Brady came in, and then everything changed. And so that's kind of, from that point of view, I kind of look at it in the Bengals perspective. From pretty much, the Bengals had a historically bad years, bad decades. The 90s, the 2000s, all horrible. The 2010s teams that were playoffs, I mean, they were, nobody expected them to do anything when they got to the
Right.
playoffs. It doesn't matter how good their team is. But now, I mean, just the complete culture of the Bengals have just changed all because of one player and just overall top to bottom changing. And I just I think that this can have a lasting effect on the Bengals going forward many years after Joe Burrow leaves. I just hope that is the case.
And one of the things you see in the NFL is something like Cincinnati, that is relatively a small market, Seattle, when your team is good, free agents will go. And unlike the NBA, where there's certain cities players don't want to go, if no one wants to go to San Antonio, despite Greg Popovich, no, for some reason, people don't want to go there. But if I'm a defensive player, if I'm an offensive free agent, and I have Joe Burrow and I'm like, we're in every game. All of a sudden, Cincinnati, despite being cold weather, despite a history of losing, despite not being in a big market, Cincinnati could be a free agent landing spot for the next 5 years.
Absolutely, and it's all because people come in and they want to play with Joe Burrow, and, the saying, "Winning solves everything."
Yeah. Yeah.
Winning will solve everything. I've been to Cincinnati. The cold weather, it's brutal. I would never want to live in that. But if I'm a player who's looking to go to a contender, and I see that, hey, they got Joe Burrow, we got a chance at the bowl. Yeah, why not?
So as a fan, as someone who covers the Bengals for Team NBS, if they lose today, is it a letdown of the season, or are you like, you know what? We're still years ahead of schedule. This is Joe Burrows. He's still young. He's not even going to be as good as he will be in the next couple of years. He's only going to get better. So, will there be a letdown if they lose tomorrow?
Personally, I don't think it will be a letdown because what people have to remember about the Chiefs is that this is their fifth straight conference championship game. So really, when we were looking past the trash talk, this is like the AFC still kind of it still pretty much runs through the Chiefs. This is their fifth straight conference championship, and
Yep.
so the Bengals as a team are also much younger. They have a lot of players that are still on rookie contracts,
Yep.
so they still have a lot of time going forward to still figure out, well, where their team future is heading. So yes, it's the world is not going to end because the Bengals lose tomorrow. I mean, yeah, it'll be very disappointing for me and other Bengals fans and players, but everything is
You're
not
you're
getting.
ahead of schedule, right? You're like,
Yeah,
I open up the show talking about Zion Williamson, who's made his first starting also. Zion's ahead of schedule, right? Because he's so young. He only played 1 year in college. He's ahead of schedule. Everything up until this point is gravy. So you're saying it's already been a successful year.
yeah, absolutely. What people got to remember about last year is that one thing about me, I didn't even have the Bengals going to the playoffs last year. So the
Right.
fact that they did what they did last year is way above expectations. This year, yes, of course they made the playoffs, but I don't think that their window is specifically closing or done.
Okay, so I saw you kind of laughing when I was talking about backstage, laughing when I was talking about the NFC Championship game. Um, I think the Eagles are the best team in football. I don't think Brock Purdy is going. I think Brock Purdy can play well, but he's going to turn the ball over. We saw last week when it was a close game, he kind of panicked, and Shanahan just started feeding Christian McCaffrey. We saw George Kittle make that acrobatic catch. I think the San Francisco 49ers are a great team, but they're going up against a better team. Who do you like in the NFC?
Man, this is something that I've been thinking about, and yeah, I mean, I like I'm liking the Eagles right now, Monty.
Yeah.
What people got to remember about their defense facing Brock Purdy is that this is the that had over 70 sacks in the regular season
Yep.
and four defensive linemen with double-digit sacks, so they can put pressure on just anybody. You know,
And they
Now,
added Sue, who's been a nightmare. One thing about him, when he's like Carmelo Anthony, so much talent, but there are times when he's not motivated. When Sue's motivated, like to get to a Super Bowl right now, I expect him to make one or two big plays in that game.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I mean, even though he's much older, he can still play. He can still play when he wants to play, and it just yeah. you know, I've been just waiting to see like, man, can anyone really line up against the Eagles and play? And
Yeah.
pretty much the 49ers are the only team that has a shot, and even I'm left leaving myself questioning if they got a chance to really do it.
Yeah. Okay, so the big question here now is win or lose, what do the Bengals need to do this offseason? Where do they have to improve? Give us positions, or are they, like you said, a bunch of players on their rookie contract? One of the things I love about the Golden State Warriors, what we're seeing with the Memphis Grizzlies, is they are being patient and they're letting these core group of players grow and develop. Do you stick with your young guys, or you're like, you know what, we're this close, we need a few veterans now in
Uh,
the offseason?
so before anything, the number one thing that has to be taken care of is, of course, the Joe Burrow extension.
Yes.
Honestly, I
That's a
can't.
no-brainer.
Yeah, I can't tell you how much they're gonna give him, but I'm assuming it's a blank check, so I don't know. But yeah, get that out of the way first. Just don't even think twice about it. Shoot, I mean, ink the contract as soon as the off season starts. So I don't know, but after that, I want to see the offensive line. I want to see the offensive line get retooled a bit. This season showed that with all our injuries, they still need more depth. We have guys we could play on the line, but we still, the Bengals gave up over 40 sacks in the regular season, so there's still work to be done up front. So they gotta, retool. Maybe draft a few guys, or hey, maybe pick up another veteran. I don't know, figure it out. And then also defensively, we need to get another corner. We lost Chidobe Awuzie in the regular season. That's still a big loss. And then we had to rely on rookie Cam Taylor Britt and of course Eli Apple. I know people don't like Apple, but it wouldn't hurt to get another corner. We're gonna and then on defensively as well. If win, lose, or draw, we're most likely going to lose Jesse Bates as well
Yep.
because he wants to get paid like Minka Fitzpatrick, even though he's not that guy.
That's a salary cap issue, right? It's not
Yeah,
like they don't want them; they just can't afford them.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's a solid. He had a solid year, but we can't give him 100 million. Sorry,
Right.
yeah. So we're gonna have to stick with our rookie Dax Hill, and then probably retool a little bit defensively as well. And probably, it wouldn't hurt to probably pick up a running back late round after Mixon because his contract is going to be expiring in another year or two as well.
Okay, so I'm gonna gauge this statement by the reaction on your face. I've been thinking about this for about 2 weeks now, and I've been going back and forth. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase could be just as good as Troy Aikman and Michael Irving. Am I crazy?
Nah, nah, not crazy at all. Just the only difference is I don't know how many Super Bowls this team's gonna win.
Right, right. Well, because listen, let's be honest. You're going up against Patrick Mahomes, who's not going anywhere soon. I think Justin Herbert and the Chargers will get
Yeah,
better. Let's be honest. Dallas really had so much talent around those
yeah,
two guys. But I look at Jamar Chase, and even when he's not catching the ball, he's a total deterrent because he's a total offensive weapon because they're always double teaming him. And we've seen the collection of wide receivers now and the tight end Hurst who's come along. Jamar Chase just being on the field is going to have two guys go to him. It's like Tyreek Hill. That's why Jalen Waddle is dominating just as well because Jamar Chase, you got to account for him no matter what.
yeah, absolutely. He every time he's on the field, he commands a double team, and then when he was, and then you could tell when he was out midway in the season, the defenses were playing the Bengals offense a lot differently. They went from double teaming Jamar Chase to double teaming T Higgins, and if it wasn't for Joe Burrow being as good as he was, that would have put a lot more difficulty on a quarterbacks like Andy Dalton. But like, yeah, man, just glad that we have a quarterback as good as Joe Burrow that got us through those stint without Jamar Chase.
So let's just paint a picture here. Bengals go to the Super Bowl, Eagles go to the Super Bowl. Obviously, I don't want you to give us who's going to win because you're going to write an article for Team MBS Media. But who do you fear more, the Chiefs or let's say the Eagles?
I'll put it like this. So with the Bengals playing the Rams last year and their great pass rush, I feel we thought the Rams defense was tough. I think the Eagles defense and their pass rush is a step above that.
Right.
Man, yeah, I'm definitely, I think the Eagles is, I they're more than the Chiefs, honestly.
And so, my final question, and then we'll have one NBA question talking with Jalen Willingham here from Team MBS Media. If Joe Burrow goes back to the Super Bowl and he loses, is there going to be like, okay, we got there twice now and we've lost. But let's be honest, the Rams team last year, they sucked this year, but everything went right for them. The Eagles are 14-1 with Jalen Hurts starting. It's not like Joe Burrow's coming up short. He's just going up against really, really good teams. It's like LeBron, right? Forget about Dallas. Okay, LeBron lost to a San Antonio Spurs dynasty. LeBron lost to a Golden State Warriors dynasty. It's not like Jordan, who was playing the Utah Jazz, or Portland, who never won when he retired, right? So Joe Burrow's going up against the best of the best, but I think he relishes that. He talked a little trash last week after the game because they were talking about the Chiefs and the Bills going to a neutral site for the AFC Championship game. And he goes, you better give them some refunds.
Yeah, I love that segment. I love that part when he said that. And yeah, I mean, to your point, that does, it makes a lot of sense because that Rams team last year was star studded, had superstars all around the field, and then whoever they play this year is pretty much one of the best well-rounded teams in the league. Great elite defenses to both teams that can run the football at a top level. And yeah, I think Joe Burrow he loves the challenge, he loves the competition. It's just there's going to be just certain holes in the roster will just fail, that could fail no matter against who they play, if they do make it to the Super Bowl. And when I say holes, I'm specifically talking about the offensive line.
Did you think, because I thought Justin Herbert was going to be better than Joe Burrow, did you think Joe Burrow was going to be this good? And were you happy when the Bengals picked him? Or did you think, worst case scenario, they'll win 11 games? Because let's be honest, the Bengals for years have made the wrong decision. I thought they should have got offensive line help because Joe Burrow got hurt and got his ass kicked his first year, but they go out and get Jamar Chase, who's been phenomenal. So were you happy when they picked Joe Burrow?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I was very happy when we picked Joe Burrow, but if you told me in, you know, s- spring of 2020 that Joe Burrow was going to have a Super Bowl in his second year and then on the verge of another Super Bowl in year three, I would have probably thought you were crazy.
Right.
So, and then on top of that, year two, I'm agreeing with you, Monty. I didn't even want Jamar Chase. I wanted Penei Sewell. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
and then I kept going back and forth with my dad because we we were watching the rookie season. He was like, Jalen, did you really, like, who did you want? Did you want Sewell or Chase? And I said, Sewell. I mean, you watch the games? Why
Well,
wouldn't you?
look at my background, man. Oregon Ducks. Of course, they should have got Penei Sewell.
Yeah, and then yeah, I just it's funny because looking back, Chase, if we chose Sewell over Chase, we probably may not have even been in the Super Bowl last year.
Yep. And the other wide receivers probably wouldn't develop because we know that when you're the number one wide receiver, then or you're the number two, and then all of a sudden you get elevated to number one. Look at the Packers this year, right? They lost Devontae Adams, and the second and third guy now had to be number one and number two, and they couldn't do it. All right, Jalen, I want you to stay with us for another minute. We're going to bring on Orrie Berce. Listen, I don't follow anyone on TikTok. I follow maybe friends that I've had for years, a couple of what's that called? Verified accounts because that's supposed to be good for your analytics. But I started following Orrie Berce from Hoop Social because I post about 10 videos a day. This guy's killing it with NBA content. Just a phenomenal. If you want to get NBA information, you have to follow him. First time on the show. I'm going to bring him on to talk about the Atlanta Hawks and arm guards that we love. Let's see what his take is. Orrie, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Great to join you. I appreciate you having me.
I'm so happy that you're on. Okay, Jalen and I are big Trae Young and DeJounte Murray fans. Every time I post a video, I get the same BS about him. They say, "Oh, Monte, he doesn't play defense." Okay, first of all, Steph Curry doesn't play defense. Luka doesn't play defense. But I want to say this, and we'll start with you, Orrie. Then Jalen will get your take. They are the only backcourt in the NBA that has over 15 games where both of them have scored 20 points and 5 assists. Second is the Sacramento Kings with Sabonis and Fox. They have 9. So for people to say they're not playing well together, for people to say they don't have chemistry, they don't even know each other yet, and they're being super productive. Orrie, is this the best backcourt in the NBA?
You're gonna hate me for this because I think I'm gonna start immediately by saying I think they're probably number 2.
That's
And
fair. Okay.
I absolutely love them. I think you're correct. I think that their chemistry needs to develop a little bit more. I think DeJounte Murray kind of balances what Trae Young doesn't bring to the court. So I think they balance each other out well. I think they're both extremely talented. Obviously, Atlanta's not where they want to be this year, but they're my number 2, if I'm being honest.
Are the Cavs number 1?
No, you'd probably be surprised, but my number 1 is actually John Morant and Desmond Bane.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
I think
Okay.
I'm a big Ja guy, and I'm a big Bane follower. I think Desmond Bane is supremely underrated, and you figure both of those guys are averaging more than 24, 25 points per game. Bane can get you 5 rebounds, 5 assists. He can also play defense, and he's an illustrious 3-point shooter. So I think it's Bane and Morant are the underrated.
Andrea, and my friend Andrea agrees with you. My friend Andrea, look, she's all over it. Okay, Jalen, are they the best backcourt in the NBA? My 2 boys here from Atlanta.
Yeah, dang, or that's a very good point. That you said brought that up. Yeah, honestly, I gotta agree with you on that one, man. Yeah, I don't think the Hawks are the best, but they're definitely one of the best. They just need more time to gel, and to the point, early beforehand about the defense. I mean, let's be honest. With Trey being 6'1", he's never going to be a top tier defensive
Never.
threat ever. So just don't even just get over it. So it's great that we got DeJounte who can pick up the slack on defense as well. And then honestly, going above everything else, this team is only going to be so good if Nate McMillan is the head coach.
I'm not a fan of Nate McMillan. We've talked about it ad nauseum. All they do is run high screen. There's no off the screen for Trae Young. He never gets easy shots. Okay, one more question for you, Jalen. We'll get you off, and then we'll get Orrie on here. Jalen, I have Jason Tatum out of Duke as my MVP. Everyone is saying that Jokic is going to win it for a 3rd straight time. Jalen, who is your MVP of the NBA?
I'm sorry, Monte. I can't agree with you on that. but
What?
yeah, but
wait. So hold on. People are acting like Jason Tatum shouldn't even be in the conversation. He's 37-5, and what I love about him is this guy plays every night. Doesn't care if it's back to back. Doesn't care if it's on the road. How come people are looking at me like I have 3 heads with Jason Tatum as the MVP?
It's because Monty, they're sipping on that Luka Doncic juice, man. You can't just let him go. I mean, yeah, Tatum is no doubt a MVP candidate, and he's going to be an MVP candidate. But right now, for me, it's between Luka Doncic and Nikola Jokic. The fact that Jokic is pretty much averaging a triple double again in year 3. I mean, I know the narrative is always against give the MVP to somebody else. I mean, he's already won it too many times, but man, I mean, you just got to consider giving it to him a 3rd time.
Listen, I see Orrie's eyes lighting up when you talk about the Joker. So obviously, Orrie, he's your MVP, right?
Yeah. I obviously I have some stuff to back it up. It's not completely just opinion, but I think it's going to be a really hard time for the voters not to vote for him again. I understand voter fatigue plays a role, but he's fantastic. He is fantastic.
Okay, so break it down, because if I was just going on someone who plays every night and produces every night, if it would, for me, it would be Tatum and Giannis. those guys every night are dominant, scoring, rebounding, imposing their will. Maybe it's just because Jokic looks like he should be in a 40-year-old YMCA league that I'm not giving him the respect. But why do you have him so much the favorite of the MVP to win the MVP?
To be quite frank, it's a combination of a few things, but one of the major details is, first and foremost, he's having a better season than his last two MVP seasons. The advanced analytics are wild for this guy. I mean, he is so far above and beyond everybody else in, true shooting and all these other little details. And he's 69.9, 70% true shooting, which is something that just doesn't happen. And 25 points per game, 11 rebounds, almost 10 assists per game. He's shooting the ball from 63% from the field, 38% from three, and 82% from the line. Like, the guy just is hitting on all cylinders. You compare him to anybody else, and and then just add the fact that Denver is playing well. Like, that's just a little tidbit more, So I think it's his award to lose, in my opinion.
Okay, listen, you guys make a great argument. Okay, Jalen, how can we follow you? How can we support you?
You can first follow me on Twitter at 2Trill Sports, 2Trill ST. And then I'm also on Instagram at 2Trill Sports. And then also I have my own YouTube channel where I'm covering the NFL and NBA at Trill Sports. I'm writing for the Cincinnati Bengals in the NFL, and when the season ends, I'm going to be covering the basketball more, so the Atlanta Hawks on Team MBS Media. And that's where I'm at.
Jalen, we had another guest scheduled to cover the Chiefs. I appreciate last night. You answered me right away. Appreciate you coming on. Did a tremendous job as always. We'll see you down the road.
For sure. Thank you.
All right. Great job by Jalen. Orrie, when we come back, we're going to talk about your Boston Celtics, and we're going to get into more NBA stuff. You're watching the full Monte Sports Show live on YouTube.
We are here shooting Remova's latest campaign. I'm happy to be a part of such a great brand, and looking forward to seeing what's in store. I just love the luggage. I love the quality of it. I love the style of it. This feels fitting, to my travel. My travel has helped me grow as a person. I've been able to go all over the world and to see so many different walks of life, so many different regions in this world, so many different places, and experience so many different cultures and things of that nature. So, that's definitely made me become a better person myself, because just being able to see the world and appreciating, different cities, different countries, and what they bring to the table. I think I've been so successful playing on the road in my career is just a sense of calmness for me. I love the adversity and being able to go on someone else's floor where they're most comfortable at, and being able to, try to defeat them there.
In 2006, we founded Yeti Coolers with a simple mission: build the cooler we use every day if it existed. One that was built for the serious outdoor enthusiasts rather than for mass discount retailers. One that could take the abuse we knew we'd put it through, out in the field and on the water. One that simply wouldn't break. We decided early on that production innovation would come from necessity and first-hand experience, not from market research and data analysis. Today, Yeti products perform when it matters most. Whether that be an excursion into the remote Alaskan wilderness, chasing redfish on the Gold Coast, or just getting together with friends in the backyard, we make gear that helps you stay out longer, travel farther, and live harder. # built for the wild.
All right, let's bring him back on. Again, Orrie Berce from Hoop Social. Orrie, one of the things that we're having trouble with the chat, so people are texting me. I have been very critical of the Dallas Mavericks because I think they're way too reliant on Luka. Now, if I'm Luka and I go to the All-Star game in the next week or so, and I see 2 or 3 players on a team, for example, the Celtics have 3 or 4 guys who can play in an All-Star game. You look at the Clippers, what they have. If I'm Luka, I'm like, we need to get some talent here, because by the end of the season, I'm going to be exhausted because I got to do 30, 10, and 8 every night, and I'm taking a pounding. What does Dallas have to do to get some players to help this guy?
I'm not quite sure. I mean, at this point, Dallas just doesn't have the assets to make any really good, impactful deals, in my opinion. I mean, you have players that you could move, like maybe Tim Hardaway Jr., Davis Bertans, somebody like that. But they just put Luka in a very tough position where his usage is so high that it would be super impressive to me if he was able to keep this up even come playoff time. I'm concerned for them and their longevity issues, just given how much they have to depend on Luka. But I don't see anything in the immediate future being able to change that situation.
Yeah, and one of the things you brought up, John Morant. One of the things I don't like about point guards, I want my point guards to be like Trey Young, Steph Curry. Shoot the floater. John Morant wants to dunk over people. He wants to impose his will. At 180, he's going to take a pounding. Luka's 6'9", 235, but he wants to draw the contact. He wants to post up. We all saw when Pat Beverly was on him, and he's like, "You're too small." I don't like my point guards getting their ass kicked night in and night out. I want them to be like Steph Curry or Trey Young. Shoot the floater, get the hell out of the paint. Luka's getting beat up every night, Orrie. I don't like it.
Yeah, same here. And granted, he's much more physical than I think people give him credit for, much more athletic than people give him credit for, so he can take a lot. But I don't see it bounding well for them, and it's going to be something that Dallas is definitely going to have to tackle if they want to move further in the next few seasons. Or I think Luka's going to have enough, and I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to get out. If I'm being 100% honest with you.
Okay, I want to welcome you, so I'm putting your Boston Celtic background up for you so you feel at home. Obviously, you are a Celtics guy. So let's start with this. First of all, this is going to be like, it's going to freak people out a little bit here because I'm putting a Laker up with Celtic background. But what LeBron James is doing this year has never been done. I don't care if you think Jordan's the greatest player of all time, Kobe, I don't care. But for longevity and productivity, now people say, oh, but they're losing. Okay, well, my argument is Kobe Bryant, his last 2 years as a starter, was 10-25 and 13-53. Those Laker teams sucked. Have you ever seen a player this late in his career be this effective?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely not. This is completely unheralded. I think that he's, some people get upset, like you said, because he's not winning. So they think that it puts a stain on his GOAT conversation. But I think it does the exact opposite. I think it's the longevity is just unheard of. I mean, you think of what Kareem was doing at this stage when he was older. He was still performing at a high level, but it was nothing compared to what LeBron James is doing.
Yeah.
LeBron James is playing out of his mind, and I don't think it's empty numbers. Some people will tell you that it's empty statistics on a bad team, and I don't think so. I think it's just him trying his hardest to make a bad team sufficient, and they just don't have the tools to do it.
Here's what is empty numbers. Okay, Allen Iverson his last few years with Philadelphia, empty numbers. Kobe Bryant with the Lakers, Michael Jordan with the Wizards. Those were empty numbers because all those guys shot under 45%. He's shooting over 51%. And here's what makes it so insane. You look at the Lakers, they don't have a lot of talent. Yes, Anthony Davis, when healthy, is talented. But what LeBron James has done without Anthony Davis, every team says we need to stop LeBron. And he's second in scoring since Anthony Davis has went out. And not only that, he's shooting at a higher percentage when Anthony Davis is not on the floor. What more can this guy do to get some respect?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's just a terrible situation overall for LeBron James. I mean, it really is. He's been put in a difficult spot because they're probably not going to make the playoffs, and this entire season is going to seem like a wash for him. But in reality, I mean, he's proving that he's still one of the top 10 best players in the league, I think, without a doubt. And we haven't seen a player been able to do this before. I mean, he's just extending and extending his career. He wants to play with Bronny. I think it's more than likely that will definitely happen because Father Time has lost this one. Let's just say that.
That's a good point. And Father Time never loses. Okay, let's talk about your Celtics. Again, we're talking with Orrie Berce here from Hoop Social. You got to follow him on TikTok. The guy's constantly doing analytics, posting videos left and right. No one does it better for NBA coverage than he does. That's why I started following him. Let's talk about your Celtics. First, let's talk about the coach. This offseason, I thought, okay, you lose the finals, there's going to be some sort of hangover. Then you lose your coach because apparently he couldn't keep it in his pants with all the people in the building and sleeping with women, whatever. But now you bring in this guy, and all of a sudden, Joe Mazzulla could be coach of the year this year because he's righted the ship and they are better than they were last year with a coach who was the assistant and now running the show. How have they not missed a beat this year?
I was in the same boat as you. I thought losing their coach and losing Ime Udoka was going to be a death sentence. I didn't see this coming at all. Joe Mazzulla has proven me wrong. I think he's proven a lot of people wrong. And I think it says a lot about the team structure and the way that they built this organization and the way that Boston does things. I think that it starts from the top with the leaders of the team, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and those guys. And it just trickles right down, and they haven't missed a beat, like you said. I mean, it's incredible to watch. And if you had told me that the Celtics would be the number one team to start the season after losing their coach, I wouldn't have believed you. So the fact that we're in this position now, I think speaks, a great deal towards what Joe Mazzulla is doing. And he's definitely a coach of the year candidate, I believe, for sure.
So I know he's hurt right now, but I look at Marcus Smart and I say, this guy has really gotten better every year. He couldn't shoot. He was a total liability when he came into on the offensive end when he came into the league. He's improved every year. I was shocked that he was still playing point guard because I was like, okay, you go out and you get a point guard, but Marcus Smart to me is the heart and soul of the team. He does everything that you want your leader to do. Tough as nails, defends, can hit the open three. He'll play 4 positions on the floor. How much of a loss is this going to hurt them? Because to me, he's the heart and soul of the team.
100%. You nailed it right on the head. He is the heart and soul of this team. I think he's one of those guys that they depend on to do the dirty work, to tackle all the intangibles, to draw charges, to get tips, deflections. I mean, he's one of those guys that brings the energy on the court. So losing him is going to be a huge detriment. I think the team can get by because Derek White is an undervalued backup. So I think that they'll still be, able to keep their success going. But Marcus Smart's somebody that you need, come playoff time to be healthy in order to make it to the finals. He's that integral of a piece, in my opinion, because he's just that good at so many different little things that are required to be a good basketball team. And so he will get those little things.
We're going to talk about Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum in a minute. My friend Andrea brings up a good point. She says, can we talk about Curry and Thompson? The problem I have is Klay Thompson used to be a great two-way player, but injuries have slowed him down. He's basically a jump shooter now. So would you rank the Golden State Warriors, who, let's be honest, talk about a NBA championship hangover? They can't win on the road. They're getting blown out by teams on the road. What has gone wrong, in your opinion, where everything has gone right for the Celtics, who were in the finals last year? Everything has gone wrong when they're on the road with the Warriors. What is wrong with Golden State?
That is a tricky one, if I'm being honest. I see them as a team that, they didn't lose a lot. I mean, I know they lost Otto Porter. They lost Gary Payton II there. So they lost some of that depth on defense. But the drop-off has been something that I don't think anybody saw coming because, really the core is still the same. And yes, Klay Thompson has dropped off a bit and doesn't play defense the same way that he used to. But I don't think there was anybody that saw this coming. The team just, you look on paper and it's hard to explain. I couldn't explain it, why they have so many woes on the road. Not at all.
Maybe don't punch your up-and-coming superstar in practice like Draymond Green did. Maybe that has something to do with it, and they don't talk to each other on the road. Okay, I'm absolutely shocked, and I don't understand this. Why isn't Malcolm Brogdon the starting point guard? I thought the reason why they lost last year was because they didn't have a true point guard. Malcolm Brogdon, we've seen him on other teams run a team. Are you shocked that he's coming off the bench?
To be quite frank, I'm not. I think it has a little bit to do with all the things that Marcus Smart does right. I think Marcus Smart is an underrated playmaker. I think he's showing that this year. He's averaging like 7 assists. He's improved, and his defensive strength is so strong that the drop off between him and Brogdon isn't big by any stretch of the imagination. But I think Smart brings more of those intangible things. And Brogdon is an excellent leader for the second team. You know, he's a great scorer, a 50, 40, 90 guy, and he doesn't turn the ball over, which was a big cause of concern, obviously, come playoff time, was those turnovers. And so I think having Brogdon leading the second team is excellent, to be quite frank. I think he should be up there for Sixth Man of the Year as well, because he's just a strong leader off the bench and keeps that second team going.
That's a good point. And for those of you who don't know, 50, 40, 90 is shooting 50% from the floor, 40% from three, 90% from the free throw line, to break it down to, people who don't understand some certain basketball terminologies. But my thing is, I would start Malcolm Brogdon at the point, Marcus Smart at the 2, Jaylen Brown at the 3, Jason Tatum at the 4, and Al Horford. I'm not saying bench Marcus Smart. Obviously, Malcolm Brogdon, as much as I hate to say it, is a huge upgrade from Peyton Pritchard, my boy out of Oregon. But I think that 5 right there, you get good defense, a lot of steals. You have Marcus Smart who can play off the ball. I'm just shocked that Malcolm Brogdon, and God bless him, he loves his role.
Yeah, he does. He loves his role, and he's extraordinarily good at it. I mean, I think the only thing stopping them from running that lineup is I think they prefer to put Horford and Williams together,
right,
and kind of have that big guy action going on.
So the problem I have with this team going forward is I would love to see them get someone, if he could stay healthy, like a Marvin Bagley or a big who could defend the rim. Because I think, let's be honest, Al Horford is a solid pro. Talk about a guy who turns back time. If you look at where he come from, Florida, and all the people who he played with at Florida are now out of the league. But they need a legitimate shot blocker, rim protector.
Yes, 100%. And you look out there on the market and what key players may be available. There's not a ton of it. Honestly, I know it probably is super unlikely, but I'd love to see them make a move for Jakob Poeltl if that was possible.
And what else can they do for the trading deadline? Do you think they're standing pat? Because this is a young core. They've played together. Jason Tatum has gained about 25 pounds of muscle since he's been in the league. He's developed. He's just gotten better every year. What do they need to do at the trading deadline?
I think they don't have to do a lot, but I think they should think about bringing in maybe another wing. I know that Jay Crowder's out there. He might be a good guy to get a reunion with, or even somebody like Alec Burks from the Detroit Pistons, a nice 3-point shooter, someone to just take a few minutes off of Jalen, I think would help. But other than that, I think standing pat is probably the best strategy without making too big of a move.
So walk me through this here, because I'm going to say this name and I don't understand. Every time this guy plays 20, 30 minutes, he gets you 10, 10, and 4. If I'm the Celtics, I do everything I can to go get JaVale McGee.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a guy that adds that rim protection dynamic immediately. And taking some minutes off of Robert Williams is going to be big, I think, because Williams you need for the playoffs. So having somebody that can also be a great rim protector and take some of that time away from Williams, I think would be huge. So JaVale McGee is a great option. I definitely agree with you.
And he's basically riding the pine in Dallas, which I don't understand, because they have the worst bigs I've ever seen in Dallas, who can't protect, who can't finish. My friend Andrew's a diehard Dallas Mavericks fan, and she's like, why isn't JaVale McGee playing more? So, let's be honest. I think he'd be a great fit. And you said maybe a wing. How about, will they be as aggressive as going after someone like a Buddy Hield?
That's where I would love to see that for sure. But I don't see somebody like Buddy Hield being able to be, actually caught up. I think that he's going to be too sought after, and Boston probably wouldn't have the correct offer to pull him in, if I'm being honest.
And going back to Dallas, Powell and Kleber are just not effective at all. Poor Luca. All right. So who is your final four if you had to pick right now? Two in the East, two in the West. Is it the problem I have with the Nets is one, you can't trust Kyrie or Kevin Durant to be healthy. And let's be honest, as great of a job as their coach has done since they fired Steve Nash, they are a two-man show. You look at Milwaukee's depth. You look at the Celtics' depth. If I'm starting a franchise right now and I got to take two players on the same team, no doubt in my mind, I'm taking Tatum and Brown to run my franchise as the first two guys. Do you agree with that, or would you go with LeBron and an AD, or Kyrie and Kevin Durant?
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I mean, you think about it; these guys excel on both sides of the court. They are tremendous scorers. They feed off each other. And Jaylen Brown is what, 26 years old? Jason Tatum's 24. I mean, they haven't even reached their prime yet. So I think that you include that little tidbit along with it, that they're as dynamic a duo as you're going to see.
I think when healthy, Chris Middleton is a perfect complement to Giannis as the number two. I think Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum have the perfect complement. They don't care who scores. They appear to have great chemistry. There are times where Jaylen Brown is going to get you 15 and a quarter and take over the game, and Jason Tatum is fine with it. There's no ego here.
Exactly. And that's what makes them so dangerous, is the fact that, even if Tatum's having an off night, you have to worry about Jaylen Brown going off for 40. And if Brown has an off night, obviously there's Jason Tatum. I mean, they remind me, I hate to say this because people are going to get mad because of the hyperbole, but they remind me a little bit of the Scottie Pippen, Michael Jordan dynamic in the 90s, where you had two elite wings that are two-way players, and that's what you lead your team with. So I think that this is going to be a really special time for Boston, and they need to keep both of those guys together as long as possible.
One of the things you bring up a great point is that Jason Tatum would work out with Kobe Bryant, and Kobe said, "You suck on defense." Kobe didn't mince words, and Jason Tatum took that to heart, and he relishes in the role of being a good defensive player. And I got to imagine when you have Marcus Smart preaching defense 24/7 or Al Horford, everyone buys in. What I like about the Celtics team is they have tremendous chemistry despite losing their coach. So who is your final four? Give us in the East and the West.
All right, so this is probably going to come across as pretty basic. No giant surprises here. But Boston, obviously, I'm taking. I think they're way too good to not be in the mix. My second team is going to be actually Milwaukee. I know Philly's having a great season. I know Brooklyn's having a good season. But I think Milwaukee is still too dangerous, and I think Giannis come playoff time is too dependable. So I have Boston and Milwaukee for the East. And then you switch sides to the Western Conference, and I think the West is I think it's going to be Denver. I think the Nuggets going to make it. I think Nikola Jokic is gonna quiet down the haters by finally having some playoff success. And I think the other team is going to be Memphis. I have faith in those Grizzlies. I think John Morant, Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr., I think they're way too good to not make it to at least the Western Conference Finals. So that would be my four: Milwaukee, Boston, Denver, and Memphis.
What I like about this Memphis team is not only do they win, they're like that guy at the YMCA. They're good, and they tell you they're good. They get under people's skin left and right. Here's the problem I have with Denver. Yes, Jokic can dominate a game, a series. But in a game 5, are you relying on Michael Porter to score 25 like a Chris Middleton or a Jaylen Brown? Are you relying on Jamal Murray, who's going to have a hamstring that's 70%? There's no legitimate number 2 with Denver, whereas you clearly said with Dylan Brooks, Bane, Jackson, John Morant, they have depth. Who's your scorer for Denver in a game 5?
That's what's going to be tricky, I think. I think it's really going to depend on the health of Jamal Murray come playoff time. Because if you get Murray, you get Bubble Murray. We know that Murray has an extra gear in him. Right. And we know that Michael Porter Jr. has the talent level and has the shot. I think it's going to matter more about how Jokic gets the rest of the guys involved. and keeps them busy. You know, guys like Aaron Gordon are going to be important pieces, I think, come playoff time. And I honestly, I think Jokic is going to put it together. I know I've been praising him like crazy, but I think he deserves every bit.
Okay. As I coach, you probably don't know anything about me other than social media. I coached, won about 85% of my games. One of the things that I got to do when I stopped coaching college basketball and I went to AAU is I played all 10 of my guys. So this way in practice, they're working hard, rotate in, rotate out. Andrea says, don't sleep on the Clippers. I have no faith in this team because if I am a Clipper and I'm playing every night and I see Kawhi Leonard sitting every other day, how the hell do you build chemistry? How do you trust him? How are you not angry that I'm going to war every night and this guy comes in every other game, drops 30, and then we don't see him for 4 days? How does this Clipper team establish chemistry when everything is load managed with them and it's disgusting?
I don't think there's any way. I mean, they're one of those teams that just looks so incredibly dangerous on paper. But, you know, like you said, chemistry is such a big, important factor of this game. And being able to win in this league, you need that chemistry factor. And I think it's hard for people not to take it to heart what Kawhi does. I understand the load management 100%. He's an excellent player that you want to have come playoff time. And I think a healthy Clippers team can be dangerous in the playoffs for sure. But not having that chemistry to build around, I just can't see them as full-blown contenders at this point.
Okay, we're talking with Orrie Berce from Hoop Social. Definitely check out his TikTok page. I got two more questions for you, then we'll get you out of here. One is a simple question. In life, in relationships, in your job, you got to constantly evolve. Mike Brown was one of the worst offensive coaches I've ever seen in Cleveland with LeBron. He sat on the bench as an assistant and learned from Steve Kerr. And this Sacramento Kings team is going to make the playoffs for the first time since 1847 when they had the hoop baskets back in the day. First of all, basketball was invented way later than that. So I'm exaggerating. But to me, Mike Brown is the coach of the year. It's not even close because he has evolved. And you watch those Sacramento Kings teams, they're running the Golden State Warriors offense. Praise and props to Mike Brown.
100%. I think you hit it right on the head. Mike Brown has shown evolution. He's shown progress. He's shown that he can lead a team to success. I mean, Sacramento looks dangerous. And when have we been able to say that? I mean, that in itself is a huge win.
Maybe when Vlade Divac was there and the ref was fixing the game for the Lakers with Chris Webber, Mike Bibby, and that talented Doug Christie team. Okay, last question here. Here is how I would get rid of load management. It's a simple solution, but the owners won't do it because they're too damn greedy. You play 68 games. You don't play any back-to-back nights. You play 3 games a week maximum. And here's how I would stop tanking. You create, for the teams that don't make the playoffs, you create a round-robin tournament like March Madness. So, for example, if the Knicks don't make the playoffs, the Orlando Magic, whatever teams don't make the playoffs, they do a March Madness tournament, one and done. The final game, the final series is best 2 out of 3. And whoever wins that tournament, Orrie, first off, while you're playing this, you give an entire week off to the teams that are in the playoffs so they can rest. You run that tournament, and the team that wins that championship, they get the first pick in the draft. The team that finishes second gets a second, and so on. This is how you avoid tanking. Why are we rewarding incompetence in the NBA? The Houston Rockets have sucked since James Harden left. They're still going to suck. The Knicks have had one playoff series win since 2000, and they're in the lottery every damn year. So what can we do to stop tanking and stop load management? Do you like my proposals?
I love it. I absolutely love it. I mean, because the biggest way to stop tanking is you have to make games worth something. And we live in a rings culture. So everything is about the rings. Everything is about the championship. People just don't care about the regular season the way that they used to. You know, playing 82 games doesn't matter to these players the way that it used to matter to the players in the 90s and 80s and other decades. So I think you have to add some sort of value and create some sort of winning culture within the regular season. And yeah, you know, some sort of bracket like that, I think would absolutely change the dynamic and would make it more competitive, bring more fans to that sort of March Madness type of thing, which we all know we love. And yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think you hit it right on the head. That's a good one.
You know, in soccer in Europe, if you're the bottom few teams, you get demoted. You know, so imagine that the Knicks in Houston, if they got demoted, you know, we may never see them back again because their organizations are so incompetent. All right, Orrie, this was awesome. Thank you so much. How do we follow you? How do we support you?
Yes, absolutely. So, Orrie, obviously, I work for Hoop Social. Make sure you check out Hoop Social on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. We have a lot of podcasts. We have a lot of material, a lot of articles, a lot of writers. So always make sure to check us out. Lots of good content and lots of new content and fresh content. So different perspectives. So yes, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, all the social media outlets, and you can check out our podcasts on Spotify.
I actually just started doing Facebook Reels on Thanksgiving, and I'm at over 10 million views of my sports content. They actually just paid me. So if you're not doing, I know on TikTok it's hard because you got to get 10,000 followers to start, you know, generating revenue. But definitely your stuff is great. I'm sure you'll have tremendous success if you start doing Facebook Reels as well.
That's a good idea. I honestly, it's so difficult when you think about the success of TikTok and Instagram. Facebook almost becomes third. You don't think about it so much, but I think that's a great call. I appreciate the insight there for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And anything I could do to help you promote your stuff, let me know. You are definitely star on the rise. Really appreciate the time.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me, man. I certainly appreciate it. This was a great experience. Thank you so much.
Listen, we'll have you back. I promise you.
All right. That sounds great. I'd love to come back.
Take care, Orrie. All right. I want to thank Orrie. I want to thank Jalen. I want to thank you. Listen, follow Orrie on TikTok. If you're a basketball fan, he is phenomenal. Just does a great job. Enjoy the games tomorrow. We're working on some things with this show and my content to hopefully we'll have a big announcement coming up soon. But I want to thank all of you. I want to thank the guests. Make sure to give us a thumbs up, like and subscribe to the Team NBS YouTube channel. And in the immortal words of Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'll be back.
They were worried about cold butts. That's to bring the heated.
Oh, look at that reaction. Look at that.